The Oasis Townsville is the home base for the veteran community. Our community centre is a place where veterans, along with their families and friends, can gather to engage in activities of mutual interest, seek guidance from the team on integrating into the Townsville community, or simply unwind with a coffee from Dirty Boots Cafe. Introducing Homebase, a compelling podcast series by the Oasis Townsville and sponsored by Rotary Mudingborough, which delves into the inspiring stories of veterans and their families as they navigate life after service. Hosted by Steve and Angie, this podcast sheds light on the challenges faced during transition and the remarkable ways in which guests have found purpose in civilian life. Through personal narratives and candid conversations, Homebase offers valuable insights, support, and hope for those embarking on a similar journey. Join us as we explore resilience, determination, and triumph in the face of adversity. Angie is the executive leader of the Oasis Townsville and commenced in April 2021. Angie has 25 years experience working in the community mainstream sector and over 20 years experience in leadership roles. Angie is very passionate about helping people and making a difference. Angie feels very privileged to be leading the Oasis Townsville and changing lives of the veteran community. Steve is a part of the service delivery team and served in the Air Force for 10 years and has experience working in community services. Steve's motivation sits with helping veterans and their families find their place and purpose in the civilian world, while also sharing stories of those who have lived the transition process via the podcast Homebase. Steve loves talking sport, and if you can beat him at table tennis, he'll shout you a coffee.
Air Force veteran Ian takes us on his journey from fixing aircraft to launching a brewery. He shares his story of how a simple sip of beer sparked his passion, leading to a full-time operation and the challenges he encountered along the way.
Welcome, Ian. Thank you for joining us on our podcast today. I'm really excited to hear about your latest journey, but let's start at the beginning.
Yes, mate. Welcome to the pod. First Rafi on. So how did the Beer Baron start out in defence?
Well, defence was a long time ago. I was an apprentice, joined up after year 11, did my 10 years, started in the 80s, but way back then. I became instrument fitter, went through Williamtown, Amberley, Townsville, back to Amberley, working through Mirage, F-111 Blackhawks. Did a year at 5AV as well, with the transition of Blackhawks from Air Force to Army, then back into the Air Force system. So, I did that until a redundancy came up. Seemed like a good opportunity at the time. Took that, moved back to Cairns. Worked up there for a few years. Went to uni, so I came back to Townsville. So I flipped around a bit. Stayed here since then. Then worked a couple of jobs, not too many. Then became interested in working for myself. Did that. Moved on then to just decided to run my own entity instead of subcontracting and all that sort of stuff.
You did subcontracting for quite a while, didn't you, Ian?
About 16 years.
Yeah. What was that you were doing?
So large format advertising installation. So Southeast Corner had a couple of companies that I subbed to that were based all through Queensland, and I was their North Queensland guy, which worked, really well. It was worked for me as a single dad to, be able to set my own hours. The faster I worked, it was all done sort of thing. So that was good. Motivation for that. Once my kids got old enough, it was like, I don't have to do this anymore. And I did want to do something more for myself long term. Yeah.
And during service, you participated in water polo. Tell us about that.
While I was at Wagga, obviously you got exposure to a lot of sports programs or teams and all that sort of stuff, and I took up water polo there, which I really liked. Once I got to Newcastle, guys were putting a team together, so got involved with that, moved to Amberley, started playing water polo in town, and kept inter-service water polo going, which is fantastic. It's something I definitely recommend for people that are serving to get involved in inter-service sports. Personally, I found it fantastic. The boys that I met through that, I still keep in touch with now. It'd be the same with any sport. If you're invested, it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. And so with your transition, what was that like driving out of the base once you turned
weird.
over?
Yeah. So you do the same drive. Well, got posted to several bases, but Amberley was my longest stint in two patches. And it wasn't until the day before that I was getting out, like, I'd taken the redundancy, so there was a little bit of a build up to that, and then you're going, and it was the day before I'm doing the last drive out. I thought, this is it, tomorrow, that's that. And it felt weird. The enlistment, there's a lot of support. Everyone's around, you've got recruiting, everyone's there. You stand, when you discharge, it's you, and there's no farewell. Like, you get a welcome with your enlistment, and, your parents might be standing around, but this is completely solitary.
Yeah.
And the weirdest thing was, I went through my clearances, and I was doing, ticking the last few off, and the guy's like, "You got your ID card?" Like, yeah. And he's just looking at me. "Oh, right, sorry." Handed it over, and he goes, "Well, that's it." And that was it. There was no handshakes or thanks. It was just like, and
Yep.
Wow.
get out sort of thing. I was just like, wow. And so I went back to my section just to say cheerio, had a beer, and hit the trail. The I guess opposing celebrations, for entering and leaving is quite
Completely
noticeable.
opposite, yeah.
Yeah, you are back on your own sort of thing. It's just like, but I had somewhere to go. I was going up to work for my dad, so it was not like I stepped out without a plan. I was about to become a dad, so it was just like, this is what we're doing. It's part of becoming an adult. The military was where I went from, school kid to becoming a dad, so that transition, doing all of your training, that's where, a lot of your experience comes from with your military and blah, blah, blah. So loved it, but the time was right, and it was that transition of like, you're going to be a parent, so let's take this and go.
Yep.
So your transition was fairly smooth, aside their quick exit.
Yes.
It was a fairly smooth transition for you.
Yes.
It was your own choice, I guess, so that
Correct.
makes
Yes.
it. Well, I guess they offered you the redundancy. It was right for you.
A redundancy came up, and it was, it was on offer for some people. I just thought, I wasn't thinking about discharging before.
Yep.
It's not that I was going, I don't like this.
Yeah.
Loved it. Loved what I was doing, but it was just came up. And I thought, okay, well, let's have a crack at this and go and see what else is on the table.
Yeah. What was the reason for the redundancy? Were those a change in the unit, or was
There was government, I think. So there was a lot of restructure around the military, getting rid of Chinooks, downsizing the RAF. I don't know if it went through the other arms of the Defence Force, but it was RAF, and it was only a select band. So the tradies, there was some tradies got it.
Yep.
Not all. So there was 2 offerings, I guess, and so I took one and away I went.
Yeah. No regrets? No.
That's always been my thing. I never look over my shoulder at, I woulda, shoulda, coulda. I never do it once.
Yep.
I've made that decision. So on, and
Yep.
if it doesesn't work out like you thought, then do something, about it. So
that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
I've never been that should have stayed in.
Yeah.
A lot of people do ask you that question too.
I bet.
What do you think? Should you have stayed? And I was like, no. I've got mates that did. I've got mates who have only just recently got out, so they did like a long time.
Yeah.
And you don't think that when you're a kid. You don't think, you look around the room and go, you and you are going to be getting out in your 50s. Like, no one thinks like that. So, everyone picks a different path, and I seriously doubt that anyone has, or any of the guys I knew, regretted their time.
Yeah. Great.
Let's move on from your transition. So you were in Cairns.
Yes.
You went for a beer in Cairns.
Yes. Yeah. So this is while I was subcontracting. Went for a beer in Cairns to a brewery that had just opened up. The subcontracting thing was starting to live its last days. I don't know. Your brain says I'm out. I didn't know what I wanted to do. That was the frustrating bit. I didn't know. I knew that I was getting on in life, and like not conditions, but my life had changed. Kids had started moving away. And so all of the things that I found perfect with the subcontracting were starting to evaporate. Just decided I needed to do something else. Didn't know what it was. Went to that brewery and just went, it took me 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I want to do, like this. So went home, made that positive affirmation, this is what I'm going to do, and started looking around, where do I study for this? Went and bought a brewing kit from the home brew shop. It was like I went from zero to, if I'm going to do this, I've got to know how to do it. So applied myself, I still remember brewing my first batch. I had my shed and I set everything up there, and I was watching a YouTube clip on how to brew, and I'm like pausing it, go over and do the step, come back, hit the play button, right? And that's how I made my first batch. No idea what I was doing. It must have turned out all right because I drank it. Then you start looking for recipes and it's surprising how much information is out there. Like I read books I was recommended, read them cover to cover. I've reread them subsequent to, doing some study because I did go to Federation Uni who've They've paused that course at the moment, but it was awesome. Taught me a lot about it, and I reread, and you reread with a different mindset and educated, and you go, right, yeah, of course, or it's just revisiting what you may have sort of forgotten about. You go, yeah, that's right, that's why we're doing this. It makes you brew more precisely and pay a lot of attention to everything, whereas when you're at home, you can fudge it. You just, yeah, she'll be right. And
Yeah, well, it's only you drinking it. Doesn't matter, does
that's
it?
right. Yeah, and if it's feral, you'll probably put up with it, but I have tipped a couple out.
Yeah.
That you just went, no, I've done something wrong here. It was only just before I started, like I'd already started the precedents to open up a brewery, and I was still brewing, and I had 4 batches go off consecutively. And I'm like, I've never had this before. I'm like 4.5 years into brewing, and there's something gone wrong. By that stage, you knowing people in the brewing industry from breweries. It's a phone call or a messenger. Oi, this just happened. Take a photo, and you did this, this, and this, or go boil all your equipment. You have an infection. So nice to have received that, even though it was nervous because you're about to open up and start doing this on a larger scale for money, and see your spoils and go, right, you cannot take chances. I threw all of my ingredients out that I had already in the fridge, binned it.
Yep.
It could have just been the power went out, went mouldy in the fridge. I don't know. It was just that simple. You don't take that chance. So you just ditch it and boiled everything, flushed it all with hot water, caustic everything.
Yep.
That was nice that I was only ruining 50 litres, not,
500.
1,000. Yeah.
1,000. So you've started and you've opened
Coming up
your
to 1
first
year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk us through that journey.
Very, very busy. Once again, it was like when I started brewing. I've never owned a brewery. I've never worked in a bar. And you've got 10,000 things you have to think of.
You threw yourself in the deep end, that's for sure.
So, yeah, lost a few kilos. I got there, I had whiteboards all over the joint like a crazy man. It was just every time I walked, I had them leaning against walls. I had them hung up. They had just lists and lists of, have you got this? Remember to do that. And sequences of events. You've got to do this before you get that. And have you got this? And, oh, man. So there was, the learning curve was incredibly steep. Opening up was a massive relief. Still a very steep learning curve. Yeah. A lot of support from the brewing fraternity. You can ask questions, and they're really open about that, which is a blessing. And to that point, just recently had a fella off my brewing course who's about to embark on his own journey, and he was up in town just to hang out for a day and talk and walk through the brewery and do this and do that, and just a lot of little things that I was trying to think of, all the potholes that I was that I hit on the way. You can't think of everything, and you have to have a solution. So if a problem arises, deal with it. You can't ignore it and go, this is not how. You just have to deal with it. And I do wonder, is that part of the military training where you just get it done?
Yeah.
And so how do you operate now? What sort of events do you host? Because you have challenges with the location where you are, obviously.
It's different for Townsville.
Yep.
It's the first brewery to open up out of the CBD. Townsville's, everything's funneled into one precinct.
Yeah.
A few people are still getting used to that. A lot of people love where I'm at. It's industrial, but it's not all the way into town. In that regard, look, a few challenges there. But putting on events, so it's like your trivias and your music bingos and your comedy nights, and it's somewhere for people to go. It is a TV-free environment, so people do not sit there on their phones or they don't stare at the wall. Like, people go there to talk, and I think that's missing in today's society.
100%.
All the pubs and things you go to have 50 TV screens, whereas this isn't. And people sit there and chatter for a couple of hours, which is great.
Yeah, what a great social connection activity.
It is, yeah.
And you don't need to drink to go because you're offering other events that people can participate in. You don't have to drink to come along.
We've had a buffet put on by another foodie recently. That was great. It's just where families come, good venue for them, just seems to work. So we're discovering all of those things that Townsville doesn't have yet, which is, I guess, the whole reason why I put that brewery where it is.
Yeah. Oh, look, I agree. And if people want to find out more information, like where you are, what time you're open, what's the best way for them to do that?
So we do have socials, so Facebook and Insta.
Instagram,
and we've got a website, so it's the Selwyn Nicholas Brewing website. You just Google that. It's popping up now. We're starting to rank, keeping active in our social media so that people do know what's going on. All you do is follow and it pops up in your feed.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and you're getting, I noticed local sort of food vendors, food trucks come in on different events. sense?
Yes, so that's what we try and do, is like support like other small businesses, give them an avenue to doing what they want to do. So we've got a handful of regulars now that come along on trivia nights and any of the comedy nights, and it works out really well for everybody.
Awesome.
Great. And look, anyone who hasn't gone, take the opportunity to get along and support Ian. Ian, we're asking all our guests this question. I know you said before you look back, but if you were to give yourself some advice, what would you tell your younger self?
The military's got a great support system for a lot of things. One would be like definitely play your inter-service sport. That was fantastic. But there also further education. It is a entity that offers promotional prospects long term. Some people may not be that interested, but if you are, it is definitely a career.
Yeah.
I didn't take advantage of any tertiary education. I didn't do any, I did some, but didn't really apply myself. I think I was not ready in that stage of my life. But like you say, looking back, giving your younger self some advice would be get along to those degrees or whatever that further your future, becoming commissioned. It works outside after you've finished too,
Absolutely.
so it's not just what you do for yourself inside the military. It works once you get out. And they do look after you, so it would have been cool to have taken advantage of that sort of thing way back then.
Excellent.
Definitely.
Thanks, Ian. So Ian said it there, everyone. You need to plan for your future from day one.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us, Ian, today. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Okay.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate the chat.
Good on you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Homebase podcast, sponsored by Rotary Munding Borough. We hope you enjoyed our discussion and gained valuable insights. If you'd like to explore more episodes and stay updated on future releases, visit theoasistownsville.org.au. There, you can find all our Homebase podcasts covering a range of topics related to community, empowerment, and personal growth.